Hi, it's time for another verb of the day. Today's verb is fall. Let's take a look at some of the definitions or ways we can use this verb. The first usage for fall is to mean to move downward, and typically at a rapid speed or without control. You're moving from a higher level to a lower level. A second way we use the verb fall is to mean for a person or thing to lose one's balance and collapse. And again, that idea of moving down or moving downward. A third way we could use the verb fall is to mean to decrease in number, amount, intensity, or quality. An example of this could be in the question, are COVID-19 cases falling in your state or county? Right? So are they decreasing in number? Unfortunately, the answer to that question is probably no in the majority of places in the United States, but I hope you're not in one of those spots. The fourth way we could use the verb fall is to mean to pass suddenly into a new state or condition. For this meaning, you might think of falling asleep, or you might hear of people falling in love. That ties to this particular definition. Now, these are not all the possible usages or meanings for the verb fall. I've tried to pick out ones that I think you're more likely to hear or see when you're reading. And we'll take a look in a moment at some additional usages through phrasal verbs. But first, I want you to know that fall is an irregular verb. To make the progressive tense, all we need to do is add ing to form falling. The past tense form of this verb is going to require us to change the vowel to an E, and that creates fell. The participle form of this verb is fallen. So now let's continue to look at some meanings or additional ways to use this verb when we bring in some prepositions. And you might notice from the notes at the top of my screen, we're going to discuss a lot of different phrasal verbs. So fall is a verb that has a number of different meanings and usages. So hopefully this will help you understand some of those. The first phrasal verb we're going to look at is fall apart. And there are two possible ways that we can use this verb, or phrasal verb. The first is to mean to break into pieces. Here's an example. That old chair will fall apart if you sit in it, right? So again, this idea of it's just going to break into many different pieces. Perhaps it's very old and no longer very sturdy or in good condition. A second meaning for fall apart is to become emotionally upset and really become unable to function in a normal way. So here's an example of this usage. After he lost his job and his mom passed away, he fell apart. Right? So the idea, these two things maybe happened together very close in time, and it was just so emotionally draining. This particular person wasn't able to function normally. The next phrasal verb we're going to look at is to fall back on. It means to have other options or plans. Here's an example sentence. If you don't get that job, what will you fall back on? So again, we're thinking getting this job is our option number one or our main plan, and someone is asking, what is your backup? What is the second option or plan? And maybe you need 3 or 4. The next phrasal verb we'll look at is to fall behind. It means that you are not staying on schedule. The sentence I have here We fell behind on the project and finished it 10 days late. So we didn't stay on schedule. You might also hear this in terms of payments, falling behind with a payment. So again, you're not staying on schedule. Maybe you need to make a particular payment by the 1st of the month, but you don't make it 1 month, and then the next month maybe it's the 15th. So you are falling behind with your payments. Another phrasal verb you might hear is fall down. It means to fall to the ground. This kind of goes back to those first two definitions we looked at earlier. Here's an example sentence. The skaters fell down in the middle of their performance. Another phrasal verb you might hear is fall for. And this one also has two possible meanings. The first has a very happy meaning to it. It's to fall in love. So, an example sentence. She thinks she's falling for Jeremy. So here, she thinks she's falling in love. Just another way to say it. Let's continue to look at a second meaning for fall for, and that is to believe that a trick or a joke is true when it definitely is not true. So here's an example sentence. Don't fall for anything on April 1st. So here in the United States, the first day of April is known as April Fool's Day. And some people will create kind of elaborate jokes or tricks just to try and see if someone will fall for it, believe it. Another phrasal verb you might hear is fall off. It means that something is detaching from a bigger object. Here's an example. My glasses fell off when I bent down. So that idea of you're the bigger object, right, and your glasses fall off. Another phrasal verb we might hear is fall on. This one's a little bit older. You might not hear it quite often, but you might see this in literature and stories that you read. So here's an example sentence. They have fallen on hard times. So said another way, they have been met with some challenges, a difficult obstacle perhaps in their lives. The next phrasal verb we're going to look at is fall out of. It means to come out of some enclosed space. Here's an example sentence. Excuse me, is this your wallet? It fell out of your pocket. So your pocket was the enclosed space, the wallet fell out of it. The next phrasal verb we're going to take a look at is fall over. It means to fall to the ground. Here's an example of that. A utility pole fell over as a result of the storm. The last phrasal verb we're going to take a look at today is fall through. And it means to not be successful. But we're not really talking about a person. We're generally talking about some plans that someone has made. So the plans are not successful. Here's an example sentence. We planned to travel, but our plans fell through. So here we don't know why. Maybe it's because of the pandemic, right? It wasn't safe to travel. That could make your plans fall through or not be successful. Since we've spent such a long time with different phrasal verbs today, I'm going to skip the part where I normally practice in different tenses, but I encourage you, come back and look at my example sentences and see if you can find some examples of simple past tense, the present perfect, the simple future, if there's an imperative there, and maybe some others. And I encourage you, make comments on the video and we can check and have a bit of a conversation about it, see if you've identified the right ones. So the last part today, we'll take a look at some words that are related to our verb fall. And the first word is just going to be the noun form of this word. Same spelling, same pronunciation. And just like the verb, this noun can have a number of different meanings. I've picked out 4 that I think you're possibly more likely to hear or read, and so we'll focus on those. The first definition for the noun fall is an act of falling or collapsing. So an example of this would be the sentence, her grandmother had a bad fall. We can tell here that fall is being used as a noun because we have an adjective right before it, and right before the adjective is the article a. A second meaning for the noun fall is a reference to a season of the year. It's also known by the name of autumn. And here in the US right now, we are experiencing this season. Here's an example sentence that uses this particular definition of fall. The leaves are beautiful in the fall. A third way to use the noun fall is to mean a decrease in size, number, or a rate, possibly a level. So here's an example of that. There was a fall in unemployment claims this summer. So it's another way to say there was a decrease. The last possible way that we could use this noun fall is to mean a defeat or a downfall. And you might see this usage if you're studying history or just reading about historical topics, particularly anything connected to wars. So here's an example sentence. We're studying the fall of the Roman Empire in history class. The next word we're going to take a look at is an adjective. It's fallen. This can have a few different meanings as well, but I think what you might unfortunately hear it used more commonly is to describe someone who has died. An example of this, that bridge is named for a fallen soldier. And the last word we're going to take a look at today is the noun waterfall. It's a cascade of water falling from a height, and that happens generally because a river or stream is flowing over something. And if my description's not very good, I've included a picture down in the bottom corner of the screen. Usually waterfalls are kind of attractive things. Many people find them to be very beautiful and unique. They're not everywhere you go. But an example of this word in a sentence is, we hiked to the waterfall. Thanks so much for watching today's video. I hope you have a great day.